Welcome, everybody, to the Unlocked podcast. We are three business owners from around the continent. And today we are here for episode 52. This is we have made it a whole year if we finish this podcast, guys.
52.
Insert applause track. That's impressive.
I don't know what's more amazing, that we've put up with Lars for 52 episodes or that we've actually found a time to coordinate to get together 52 times.
Hold for applause because I assume everyone's still clapping.
Correct.
They probably aren't listening right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And I think it was 52 episodes and we took maybe 2 weeks off.
There was one dark episode in the middle. So
1 week. 1 week. We missed 1 week.
I think we took off Christmas or something like that maybe last year.
I don't know. Anyway,
I was in the quarry working and you guys were both probably off.
But
yes.
Either way, it's a full year's worth of episodes, which
It is.
There's some
pretty good accomplishment.
Something notable there.
This is probably the longest relationship of my life.
Probably.
Oh boy.
Oh, that's good. Somebody should definitely notate that.
Yep. Well, we all were together for too long a couple weeks ago and made it back home safely and got to witness each other smacking around the golf course a little bit. So that was fun.
I don't recall what happened on the course. I remember we were playing a competition. I just don't remember who won.
We don't either. So
I don't either.
It's
shocking.
As long as we don't remember, then that's fine.
Yeah. All I know is you have 0 trophies from that trip. So, but Chad, you had a pretty big accomplishment on the golf course a couple days ago.
This is a fact.
Yes.
Yes. I broke 80.
Yes. That is impressive.
And it was
on 18 holes.
Yes. On 18
But
holes.
you've broken 80 lots on the front nine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I wasn't doing that, I probably wouldn't try again. But yeah, finally broke 80 on a full round. I had a fantastic round. Everything was working together well. Driver, my irons, and putting. So it was fun. I quickly rebounded the next day with a couple of triples. So
all right, back to your usual form. I see.
Good.
Yeah. But I feel like it's the rebound, and then we're going to level off in the mid 80s here very, very soon. So
awesome.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Considering
it's coming together.
You really started kind of playing the last couple of years.
Yeah, about 3 years.
Yeah, which goes to show you literally anyone could do this if they put the effort into it.
Wow. All right. So we were at the MSC AASP Building Better Businesses 2X conference a couple weeks back.
That was great. Good description.
It was something like that, yes. And we got a lot of questions and comments on the podcast. Surprisingly, there are some people that listen to us, it turns out. And one of the questions that came up, we were doing a panel, and someone asked kind of the question of, we're going to call it the training paradox. Basically, how do you get business owners to understand the value of training when they're afraid that they're just going to train people and they're going to leave? Right. We talked about the quote. It turned out it was Henry Ford that we give credit to. Lars, you mentioned someone else in the last podcast, but
someone else?
Yeah, you mentioned a different name on the last podcast. What was that name? This is where you would share the name you mentioned.
Oh, that that guy. He had something to do with Virgin.
Oh, Richard Branson. Yeah, he stole it from Henry Ford. But basically, is it better to train them and have them leave or not train them and have them stay? And the question I want to get into a little bit today is, what do you look puzzled about?
Who are you talking to?
You.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I didn't know that was Hank Ford.
Yeah,
and I'm more thinking, this is something you guys should try, but
wonderful.
I was I was thinking about, because the situation, I mean, I was looking at some stats about this specifically. It's, in our industry, there isn't a huge barrier for entry, right? Key machines, a van, and a couple hand tools.
Yep.
So, there's a large portion. I didn't realize this. It's just under 20%, but under 5%. That's the number I'm going to go with, that are entrepreneurs. Because specifically when we were in Connecticut, we were talking about, training people how to be a locksmith or a low voltage tech or something. And then they just break off and start their own company.
Yep.
And compete against you.
Yep.
Right. And that was a real fear for some of the people at the conference. So I think
Yes.
that was the backstory of where this came up. And I was just thinking about that. And that was my puzzled look.
Okay.
Oh, well, I'm glad that we pushed in to get that answer. So your question or the topic for today is how do you convince people that they should train?
No.
That was a question mark at the end there.
Is it worth investing in people if they're just going to leave anyway? Is kind of
they're
the
just
question
gonna
that
break
was
off and
thrown
start
at
their own
us.
company.
Like, how do specifically this was thrown at us by one of the manufacturers rep from Asa Abloy. He said a lot of his dealers in his territory have this. They don't want to send people to Asa Abloy training or invest in getting their team members trained because the team members will just leave and go to competitors or start their own business. And he's like, I don't want to.
I think I asked this question when we were having this conversation. Why would people want to leave? What's the reason that they would want to leave a particular business?
Well, I mean, the most obvious is they can do it better, right? The grass is always greener. They can do it better. They don't want to be told what to do. They want to make more money. They want more flexibility and time off. All of these fallacies of the entrepreneur's lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I think fundamentally it just comes down to they can do it better.
They think they can do it better, or they think they
can do it better. Yep.
Okay. I think that's the interesting place to start at. So oftentimes, we talk about this. Henry Ford also has a really good quote about if you ask people what they want, they'll tell you that they want a faster horse.
Faster horse, right. Correct. Yeah.
Because not everybody's quite aware of exactly what they're looking for. And I think in this training situation, where people are focused on the wrong thing. So the question comes back to, why would you not want to spend money investing in people to do a better job? And the concern that comes back all the time is because they're going, if I do that, then they're going to be good and then they're going to leave.
Right.
Well, then that begs that second question. What type of environment have you built that would encourage people to just come as a training ground and then leave? So how does your company culture built to the point that people think it's not really beneficial for me to be here? I'd rather go either do this myself or go do this elsewhere. And a lot of times people think they can do it better elsewhere because they don't feel like they're being treated well at the organization that they're with.
Yep.
That was what I was trying to get to when I was asking the question at the conference is why would, what is the state of the organization or the business that people are actively wanting to go try to do it better themselves? Because you're going to have some entrepreneurial type people, right? But there's a lot of people that just don't feel like they're being treated well.
Right. I just re-looked up the stat. It's between 10 and 15% of Americans are entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so that's roughly one in 8 people in your staff. So you can do the math and figure out how many are entrepreneurial. But, why are they interested, or why do they think the grass is greener, or what are you doing to, or what aren't you doing to have them stay? I think is kind of what you're alluding to, Chad.
Mm-hmm.
And I chalk a good portion of this up to ignorance, and just in general, you have no idea what it actually takes to do your own thing. So it's quite easy in your mind because you don't really know. But I mean, from a very simplistic view, you're looking at, okay, well, we charge $100 or $150 an hour, and they pay me 20. So well, I could do this, and I could charge less and get all the business and make all that money. So I think that's the mindset from a lot of people.
Yeah,
not
for sure.
Understanding the other costs that go into it.
They just see top line and they don't understand the expense.
Right. Like surely I'm not getting my share, and fairness is always the root of all. Everything that's wrong in the world always comes down to fairness. If you think it's unfair, usually revolt against it. But specifically talking about what are the things that, companies are generally lacking, that, cause, this is great. Again, good podcast stuff, but the sun just came out in Canada.
We know this. Yes. So it caused a nice little dotted line across your face.
I was trying to speak and noticed the smirk on both your faces and looked at the camera. Oh, this is good. Okay, I'll just wiggle around. Somebody jump in here. Chad, okay, tell me, Tony, what do you guys do specifically? Like, what are your thoughts on this? People, why are you training them? What are you doing to make them want to stay? Why do people leave?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, not to go back to the quote, but I'm going to train somebody because I don't want to deal with untrained employees. Like ultimately what I think there's two things I care about. One, I want to make sure that we are keeping our employees happy. And two, I want to make sure that we're delivering the best possible service to our customers. So in order to do both of those things, you have to start with training. I think that in general, employees like to be trained. And if you're giving them that opportunity, this is really hard to concentrate with him just moving around all over the place here. Can we turn him off? Two, I think that, so basically to me, you have to take that risk in the first place to end up to train people, because if you're not going to train people, you're not going to deliver good quality service to your customers, and then your customers are going to leave you. So I think you have to start with that. Thing two is you have to look at obviously once you train somebody, you want to ideally keep them. To me, I would rather train someone and have them leave than not train somebody and have them stay. That's obvious in my mind. But I also want to ideally train them and have them stay. Yeah. So to do that, we try to do things, a couple of things. One, really understand what makes individuals tick, what they like. And for everyone, it's different. Some people, they want more money. Some people, they want more flexibility. Typically it's one of those two things. There's a third one, people want money, flexibility, fulfillment. And I've found that our industry can really give people all three of those things. And if you're doing things correctly and giving them those, you can really create an environment where my overall goal is to create an environment where it's more advantageous for them to stay with us than it is for them to leave. Like Lars said, only 5 to 10%, whatever stat he threw out there that he changed a couple times, want to be entrepreneurial and want to have that risk and want to have that extra stress. So at the end of the day, if just focus on paying our employees well, giving them flexibility, giving them pride in what they do, and create a culture that they like being a part of, and just try to not give them a reason to look to leave.
Yeah, I think that you really have to look at the business model of people that are making the statement around, if you train people, they're gonna leave. One, I think it comes down to, and we probably, I'll say I have been guilty of this. I don't know about you guys, but I've been guilty of this, trying to hire people and replicate myself. So clone people that are multifaceted to be able to handle multiple aspects of the business simultaneously. And so if you're hiring those people that are like yourself because you feel like that's the type of individual that you need in your organization to help grow, you're probably hiring more entrepreneurial focused individuals that are finding ways to multitask or do multiple areas of the business well. And they see the need for that. So you've created a business, a business environment and a business strategy that is encouraging effectively a bunch of little small businesses inside of your organization. And it's easy for that to go replicate itself out as an independent business. But if you have created a team and an organization that really focuses on working together collectively, then you probably are finding people that are team players that want to come and be a part of a team. Right. And so it's most likely somebody in an organization with less than 10 people has hired somebody that they thought was, very similar to themselves, entrepreneurial focus. They trained them up and then they left and launched their own business. Well, yeah, because that's what your business is. Yeah. That's who they were when you hired them. So it's really not a shock for that. But again, I also think that and maybe it's just that those individual business owners that have had that happen to them a few times, and then they feel like, well, this is the end of the world. And so, the easy answer is just don't hire people and don't tell them anything, because the least amount that I tell them, then they will have to rely on me for more information. It's just a really big whiplash, kind of flipping to the other side of the equation to try to protect yourself, when it's probably just a human selection where you're just not finding the right people for your business environment.
Yeah, I remember a conversation we had a couple weeks ago about finding the right employees, and I think that is a big part of it. You can look at someone's resume, and if they've had 10 different jobs over the last 7 years, you can kind of get a hint that even if you invest training in them, they might leave because they have a pattern.
For sure.
Typically, patterns repeat themselves. And that could be it too, right? Like someone might not leave to go start their own business. They might just leave to go to a competitor. So
for sure,
I think, look at your existing employees and maybe you wait to invest a ton of training into them until you have some stability. But also, again, that just comes from a better selection of people. Look at, what does your recruiting process look like? Are you vetting people? Or are you just hiring the first person that walks in the door, and then they've walked in 10 different doors and they leave?
You look at a resume and say a new job every 2 years.
Yeah.
You're going to get what you get. So a couple things here. One, the three of us are sitting here with fairly established businesses. We have, 50 to 60 team members. We have the ability and the extra manpower and probably cash flow to, really dedicate time and money and resources into training. When we were a 12-man or 14-man company, it was a completely different story.
Absolutely. So
like now, I'm trying to remember those days, because now I'm like, wow, we have a full-time teacher on staff. That's how we handle training. It's pretty easy. But when you only have 4, your typical, we just figured this out, right? We know there's about 4 trucks on the road on average is what our network is kind of built around, right? That $1 million to $1.5 million revenue. So how do those companies convince themselves? Because, just doing the math, you've probably got, whether you want to call them a journeyman or whatever you want, a senior technician that's probably in the ballpark, depending on where you live, of course, but the ballpark, call it $30 an hour. And you probably have an apprentice that's probably about $20 an hour. So now the traditional method of training would be stick one with the other. Now your cost is at $50 an hour. And that's a lot of money to invest when you're not overly convinced that this person's going to stick around. So how do you, as a smaller company or as an owner operator, how do you convince yourself to to take that, other than, three of us just saying, oh, well, you have to. Well, yeah, I know I have to, but practically, I just don't know how to make sense of this.
What's the alternative?
But hold on a second. There's 2 different conversations there, because the original question was around don't train people, or if you've trained people, then they're going to leave to go start a competitor.
Just leave in general. It's not necessarily start a competitor. It's just.
Oh, well, I thought that was what the question was.
No, it's just train them and they might leave to go do anything. It could be go work for a competitor, start a competitor, whatever it may be. It's just, I don't want to send my people to training because they're just going to leave me in a couple of years anyway.
I got you. So really, okay. So in that thought process, on the training side, you're either investing in rehiring or you're investing in personal development. You're going to have turnover. Like, that's fact. But I think that, and you could probably pull up some stats on this, but there's a proven methodology around when people are adequately trained and they actually know what they're doing, they stay at their job for a higher tenure because they feel competent. Humans do not want to feel incompetent. And when they're not trained well, or they feel like they're flying by the seat of their pants all the time, then it's a stressor, and they're looking for an easier way to do whatever that is that they're doing, and maybe something completely different. So when you're investing in training, you're investing for people and helping to develop those humans. And ultimately they should stay longer because they feel more competent at their job.
And I agree with you. I mean, my challenge and my problem with this is you're speaking in theory. That is a theoretical yes. If you challenge them, if you give them more, if you, purpose, I think Tony mentioned money, purpose, and recognition, right? Those are kind of the big three driving factors. But this is all a theory that if you provide that, people will stick around, which is just, if you're one of those companies that, you're looking at decent profitability, but cash flow is always tight. How do you make that leap? And how do you know it's going to work? Because you don't. So how do you convince yourself to do it? You just have to try it.
You just have to. I mean, there's no alternative, right? Like, we're not fortunate enough to have. Sure, you have to. If the alternative is to not grow, and then eventually your business is going to continue to struggle.
Well, and then the alternative, people talk about, non-competitions and employment contracts and all of these type of kind of, I don't want to say punitive, but by design they're almost punitive for people to leave. That's another avenue you could take. But we're suggesting, I think, not the punitive way, but build a culture or build something made that is worthwhile staying for.
Correct. And I think it's interesting because we're not in an industry where, like of lawyers or law firms, right? Mm-hmm. Lawyers are trained in school. You can go out and you can recruit a professional lawyer. You don't have to invest in training, but we don't have an alternative. There's no locksmith schools. And you're not just going to find a trained locksmith on the street. Right. And if you do, there's probably a reason they're looking for a job, and it's usually not a good reason. So you
I might have mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have another choice, I guess. You have to take that risk.
And so here's another thing to add into this conversation. People leave, data will prove it. People leave because they're not well supported by their manager or their leadership at a higher rate than because of training.
Yes.
So you have to reflect back on the environment that you've created as a business. Is this, you could have the best training and be training people really well, and they leave because they don't feel well supported by their management or their leadership team. Right. Conversely, you could have zero training and a really good management team and have a smaller turnover rate. You combine the two, training or really good training and good management, and you're going to have a high level of retention because people are going to feel competent and supported. So I think that it's probably less of, this is the thing that I get frustrated with around this type of conversation is people are looking at the effect and not the symptoms. No, that's not right. They're looking at the effect and not the cause.
Yeah, not the root cause. Right.
Yeah. And that's, I think that's really why we, like, this topic frustrates me, because people are not looking at how their business fundamentally runs.
So, saying that, what I'm taking out of that is, if you're in that situation right now and you're considering it, probably the first question should be, what have I built for I hate using the word culture, but what have I built for the surroundings of the people in my company? And do they want to stay? Have I fostered a atmosphere that people want to be part of? Mm-hmm. And if you haven't, then I wouldn't worry about training and think, because people aren't going to stay anyway.
You fix that first, and then you work on your training program. And there may be part of that is effectively professional training for management. And that's probably going to start with the owner, because to your point, Lars, if you're talking about a company that's less than 10 employees, and this is or 12 employees, whatever, this is what got me thinking about this. I think that is the typical space where we talk about it a lot. There's a business owner and he's got 9 employees. Mm-hmm. He's a business owner. He's got 11 employees, whatever. You can't fundamentally support that many people. All the data shows the most that you can support effectively is about 6 to 8 people. Once you get out of that range, you cannot effectively support those people. You're stressed because you're answering too many questions. You don't have a good training program in place. People don't like being felt like they're being not taken care of. And then you start to see these turnovers. And the people that are going to leave the fastest are those that actually have got some knowledge that they can feel competent to go out and start their own business, or to go do something different because they're like, I don't want to deal with this bull crap anymore because I feel like this is a bad, poorly run company, or the owner's a jerk, or my manager's a jerk. And then that's when they start to leave. And people are, we live in this world, and we're all guilty of it, I'm sure, where we don't have a level of self-reflection and go, oh, hold on a second. If this is a consistent issue, maybe it's me.
So sorry, I was just going to say, we've been talking a lot about high turnover, and Jed, you've alluded to that a couple times. Any idea? Do we know what high turnover is in our industry? Is it, is it 10%? Is it 20%? Like how do I recognize the symptoms, or how do I recognize if my company has high turnover? I don't know the answer to this. I'm asking if you guys, do you know?
We've tried to measure it. We haven't come up with anything logical, but so I don't have a good answer. I mean, to me, there's a little bit of anecdotal evidence, like when you look at your team, what's the tenure? I think that's almost more important. I mean, that's a hard thing to measure too, because as a growing company, we keep adding more employees, so that just brings the tenure down. But look at, do you have a lot of people that you've hired 4, 5, 6 years ago that are still around? That's more what I look at from an anecdotal standpoint.
And so, Tone, that's where I was going with this. And here's now a point of frustration that I know, I'm not going to say plagues the industry, but it's going to be very prevalent in the industry, is as managers and as coaches. I'll use a story about coaching volleyball. When you're picking a team, if you've ever been in an instance where you're a head coach and you're picking a team of players, volleyball, there's 12 players on a team, generally speaking, and 6 of them play at any given time. Okay, and it's usually your 6 or 7 or 8. They're like, exactly who your best players are going to be, and they're easy to pick. And then you agonize and you spend all your time, splitting hairs basically on the last few, and you spend all of your time, managing and coaching the kind of your entry level, your bottom people. And it's funny because that rolls over into business management as well. You spend the vast majority of your time managing the lowest performers. And then the high performers either feel left out or get burnt out because you depend on them to run their own. You don't coach them up, and you don't coach them enough. And it's actually your high performers that leave more often because they have poor management, because managing the high performers is a completely different skill set.
Which is what I was trying to, I agree with that 100%. High performers are typically the ones that can go out and start their own thing or go find another opportunity. Low performers are going to hang around because it's not going to be easy for me to go get a job somewhere else. Or I might have to actually work harder.
Yeah. It's the 80-20 rule. You got to put 80% of your effort into the 20% that are bringing. I messed that up.
That was a rough one. Okay, so according to Gemini, a healthy turnover rate is under 10%. Medium is acceptable between 10 and 25, and anything over 25% is high.
So how do you measure? Does that mean, Chad, if you have 60 people, 6 people a year should leave? Less than 6.
That is a low healthy. Yeah. So Tony, to answer your question that you were just asking, is how do you calculate that? According to Gemini, because I asked that same question, turnover rate is equal to the number of separations, voluntary and involuntary, divided by your average head count.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was,
and I know Lars and we calculated our turnover rate, I don't remember, a couple of months ago.
Yeah. Well, and that was where we weren't sure on the definition of exactly how it works. But, and I wanted to tweak it to say, meaningful because some of the entry level positions are going to be higher turnover because they just, I mean, they're not usually don't compensate super well. There's not a lot of training. There's not a lot of barrier to get in. I mean, those ones you're going to have higher turnover. And I think that's fine. When I look at it specifically, I look at kind of the key high performers and which ones, of that group, how many are we losing? And that's kind of my barometer because, frankly, there isn't some of the less impactful positions. I'm just less concerned.
I still think that, I don't know that I fully agree with that. I think at a team our size, you still want to be, turnover is still costly no matter how you slice and dice it. Yes, it's going to be less impactful, but I still don't want to be anyone on my team to be in a high turnover situation. I don't care what position it is.
Well, do you have, 55 staff? Right?
Yeah.
And you have 55 high performers? Is there not a healthy level of turnover? Is the perfect number 0?
That's fair. That's a good point. No,
I would
that's
say
a good point.
Yeah, there's probably a very, you'd have a very niche company structure that you would have 0 turnover.
Mm-hmm. No, when you look at it from that standpoint of you consistently want to be top grading your team, there is probably some level of a healthy turnover. I didn't think about it from that sense. That's a good point.
I've had it in our organization, when we look at growth, and we've talked about this, and skilling up or whatever you want to call it, but you go growth phase, plateau. Mm-hmm. And you'll find that, when you've kind of hit that plateau and you level off, you generally, the team and the skill set of the people on the team that got you to where you are isn't going to bring you to that next level. Mm-hmm. And I remember a few years ago, I had to make a really tough decision where I had a person in a role that was excellent and brought us to that next level and really opened my eyes to a whole new world. But to get us to that next level, and they were around for, I think, 3 or 4 years maybe. But, we'd kind of grown with their help, but we grew out of their skill set where I needed to find that next level. And that, it was, looking at it now, super grateful to get me from A to B, but it wasn't going to be that person to get me from A to C. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interestingly, I think I don't know if it's our industry or the service industry or small businesses, but I do think there's a different take on turnover. I think you look at larger companies and there's a lot of moving of positions. You want to keep your key people around, but there's a lot of times people will switch companies as just a step in their career. And I know for me personally, I want whatever is best for our employees. Like if they want to grow, I want them to grow. And sometimes growth might be outside of our organization, depending on, my ultimate goal is to grow our company so we can provide that growth for them internally. Yep. But I do care about them growing. And if there is another, my primary goal is to provide as much career growth as possible within our company. But if I cannot achieve that and they need to go elsewhere to achieve that growth, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Is like you said, Lars, as long as they brought value while they were here and you can move on.
Yeah. It's, so a little different angle here, because this is something we've been talking about. And we were all sitting around, and I think we were sitting in, I don't want to disclose exactly where we were sitting, but we borrowed a gentleman's hotel room. And, but we were talking about, how to,
that sounds even worse than what you wait. Yeah. It was, yeah.
If people listen to the last episode, everyone knows where we were sitting.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But
that's just a teaser. You have to go back and listen to the other episode.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's good content to go back to find. But I was talking with John Lang, and John's the, what is he? Director of something or other, everything, Ensemble, blah, blah,
leadership development.
Yeah, something.
Employee development, human development.
Sure. But John's about as bright as it gets.
Yep.
And I just reached out to him and I was like, here's my biggest fear right now, John, is we're investing a lot of time in training. And generally who does the training? It's our more senior guys. Are they any good at it? Like, how do you know if the people that you have in place for training are good at it? Like, okay, well, because here's the hard part. Like, if we were talking about business performance, we would all sit here and say KRAs, KPIs, scoreboards, whatever it is, we know how people are doing because we keep track of it. When it comes to training, do you guys have measures in place to know is the training working? Or is it a gut feeling that if you submerge them long enough, or immerse them is probably a better word. Submerge, depending on the training, I guess. Could be scuba diving. But if you immerse them long enough, they've obviously got to pick something up.
So I think the measurables on that would be one of the things we try to track is warranty calls, continuation of warranty calls, because poorly trained, especially on the technician side, poorly trained technicians are going to generate more return calls because they're not solving a problem. We have scorecards, installation scorecards, and then we are also measuring billable hours. So the more training and better training that we have, the billable hours should increase.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. That's not it's not a direct correlation because people, well, it isn't. If you're there longer, you have more experience, those numbers should go up anyway. But do you have a
challenge that? Because we've had two different trainers and we had two different results.
And see that I believe if you had like a control that people that didn't get trained and see, where they were kind of at versus people going through the school or training portal or whatever you're using.
I think we also had different turnover rates as well.
Yeah. With different trainers. Yeah. Yeah. And that's, it was just something that I'd worried about because, we're investing a lot of time and money into it, but we haven't done we keep track of the amount of hours. Yeah. Of how many hours we spend training.
Oh, I got you. But you don't have a way to track
don't know
what
how
the
good
results.
Yeah.
But we don't know, like, okay, they went from 1 to 2. Is that good? If we didn't invest the time in it, what should it have been? So that's part of my challenge coming out of, Halifax. Where were we? Hartford, sorry. Coming out of Hartford and trying to figure out, what is that number and what should it be?
What is
Halifax is a city in Canada.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the country that's north of you.
We do know
familiar
that.
with that. Yeah.
Okay.
We were just wondering why you.
So part of your question
with an
there is, what is the measurement of success for training? Because really, most people would say the measurement of success for training is certification. But how do you know the certification and the training actually works?
Well, yeah, there's lots of terrible school teachers out there that have
You
the
can just ask
certification.
the students, though. You walk in any classroom and you say, "Was this teacher good? Yes or no? Why?" Like the student's going to tell you.
I think that they're all going to tell you. I think that they're all going to tell you what you want to hear. Yeah.
That's not true.
How did you enjoy it?
We ask them, because we don't necessarily always train with one person. We send texts with multiple different technicians to train. Right. And we say, who do you like to train with? And we get an idea of who our good trainers are from that.
Do they say why?
I believe so. I've only asked a couple. I do remember a few telling me. I can't remember the specifics, but I do remember a few telling me, "Oh, so and so, I like training with him because of this."
Well, that's very helpful for the podcast listeners.
Right. So I think a big thing. So when it comes to training, is everyone learns differently. I don't want to always draw back to culture index, but it is really impactful. Some people are deductive learners and some people are inductive learners, and some people learn through experience. Some people learn through facts and data. And I think a good trainer understands how their student learns and tailors their teaching to the student. And I do remember one specific employee telling me that, he learns a certain way where he gets hands-on experience, and that he liked that this person gave him that experience. And so I think that's a big piece, is just, does the trainer understand their student?
So what are the characteristics of the trainer that you're discussing here? Like how would you assess your staff and say, hey, that person is a good trainer. I got a 12-person company here, and I'm listening to you. I'm just going to take a jump into the abyss here and hope this is going to work. How do I find one? Who do I choose? What did you guys do?
Well, again, we use kind of everybody. So I can't say we do it the best, but if I was looking for a dedicated...
All 55 people train each other?
I mean, we put the employee's manager in charge of training for their employee. So
so there's 6 or 7 probably in your company? Not a joke. 6 or 7 people, I think. That's about how many managers you have? 4 field managers, yes. Okay. In field. Okay.
Yes. So specifically relating to the field, I mean, you could argue at this point, but I defend it pretty strongly. I think a lot of the good qualities that make a good trainer also make a good manager. The way that we set up managers.
That's a terrible idea. So I want to argue it.
All right. Let's hear you argue it.
Do you want to finish the thought, Tone?
No, because I just want to get into defending his argument.
Don't let Chad's stinky face throw you off when he starts just shaking his head while you're still trying to talk.
Okay, so the way that we promote our field managers, we look at people that are good at coaching and guiding people. So ultimately, to me, like, we want our managers to be good coaches, and we want trainers to be good coaches. What?
Are these empathetic people? Are these good technically people? Are these loud people? Are they quiet people? What do you look for?
I don't care how loud or quiet they are. I care if they're hardworking. I care if they have patience to deal with employees, and have the patience. A poor trainer, someone's going to get in there and just do it themselves. A good trainer is going to have the patience to sit back, educate, and then let the employee try it themselves. Okay. So yeah, there you go. Empathetic and patient.
Empathetic and patient. And Chad, you hate this idea. Managers and coaches aren't the same person. So why not?
No, trainers and managers are not the same people, because your manager is somebody that's helping and supporting you and making and holding you accountable. A trainer is somebody that's giving you tools to be able to do things yourself. And a manager or trainer that is going to operate in a management style is probably going to have a hard time releasing somebody for independence. So they're going to be constantly supporting them, and they can only support so many people. So you are effectively creating a manager that is also handling training. And now you only have a certain level of a number of people that you can sustain. You need somebody, in my opinion, from a training side.
Oh, you got a call from your wife, Chad.
Somebody's calling. On the training side, I honestly have no idea where that noise is coming from.
Do you want to answer that, or do you want to just talk through it?
I have no idea where it's coming from.
It's probably a listener.
Yeah, let's just answer the call. Yeah. Thank you.
You have too many Apple devices when you can't figure out which one of them is ringing.
Yeah. All right, perfect. Somebody answered. Okay, so
I think that's his dog.
That is my dog over there.
Boy,
he's entered into my office and now he can't get out, and so he's very disturbed. And he was
Maybe
probably calling my wife.
And I think you were getting to something here.
Yes, okay. A good trainer is somebody that can create a curriculum and be able to maintain and manage a curriculum, not manage humans.
Well, you're specifically talking about a dedicated hands-on trainer.
Yes, because at a company that's under 15 humans, then you're going to try to do shared training.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a challenge. So you need to have somebody that is a dedicated training source.
Right.
Because I don't agree with that.
What? I know you don't.
I don't have a dedicated trainer. We have 55 employees.
I know you don't agree with it, because that's why we're having this conversation.
Okay.
I mean, you just said that you like to have the managers train.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is,
I guess we,
and I think we're having a little challenge with semantics here, and words do matter here. That I think we're saying using the same words, but I think we mean two drastically different things. I mean, does a good manager have to be a good trainer? And does a good trainer have to be a good manager?
I think that it's two different skill sets. And that's the biggest thing with teaching somebody how to do something is an art and a craft. Mm-hmm. And not everybody, even though they may have the knowledge, they may not have the capability to teach someone well. And they may be teaching them how to rely on them as a human, because that makes them more important versus training them for
they're
independence.
Not a good manager. If they're selfish to the point like that, then they're not the right person to be a manager.
Well, I think so. Chad, explain your situation, because I know you hired a guy with a military background that had no security, no locksmith background, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And
he was a trainer for several years. We now have a different training director,
but
that is significantly more of a teacher.
Okay. And is that new training director, are they a locksmith by trade? Do they have a background in locksmithing?
They worked in the field for a few years, doing some light locksmithing, but more electronics. They were more focused on electronics.
Have you changed because before I thought, your concept and your theory was you have to be a good teacher.
Sure.
Knowing the actual content is secondary. Are you still of that opinion?
Yeah, no, I'm still of that opinion. Yeah. The teaching is of the utmost importance. Understanding how to, convey information to humans and be able to get humans to be able to apply it is of the utmost priority for me. Their expertise in that content, their expertise in that actual implementation is secondary, because what I think I've seen over the years and talking and watching and seeing a lot of people that are training other employees, when they are the expert in the field, then they are still always the expert in the field, and they don't know how to replicate other experts. They don't know how to train other people.
Everything's easy.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think a big takeaway that I think we all can agree on is that if you have a pool of 10 technicians, your best technician may not be your best trainer. That's not always synonymous.
100%.
And I think you're going to have certain technicians that are really, really good, but they're not going to be good at teaching, and vice versa. You may have a technician that's not the most productive, but he might be really good at teaching another employee.
Right.
And so I think no matter what, especially if you're smaller and you don't have the luxury of having a dedicated training resource, I think when you are looking to train a new technician, look at your team and try to understand which one of your technicians might be the best at teaching, and they may not always be the best at locksmithing.
Or find somebody that can be a good teacher and give them a good curriculum.
Give them a curriculum to teach. Yeah.
Which is something that there isn't a whole lot of in the industry, which is why a lot of manufacturers offer their training, right? So that you can send somebody there, but not everybody sees the value in paying for that, because what goes back to the original question.
So going back to that, go ahead, Lars. Sorry.
No, I saw the light bulb go on.
No, I was going to change courses here. So if you had something related.
Well, no, I was just going to say, because we'd talked about that, Chad doesn't like to name drop, so I will. Os Abloy University is the most obvious one that we were just talking about. And you can send people to California, I think they've Texas, but you can effectively talk to your Os Abloy rep and say, I want to send some technicians down, and they'll go and cut holes and pin locks and, do all of the things that locksmiths do. And it's an investment. I'm not sure if the course itself costs money too, but let's say it's $10,000 or $15,000. We were talking about that in the, $10,000 or $15,000. Well, that's a lot of money. Then we started thinking about that. It's realistically, that's probably, a new technician, you're going to get probably $1,000 a day. It's a couple weeks investment. And you think about the time and money that you spend if you were doing that in-house.
And how quickly are they going to make that back for you? Even
that's what I mean. Just the cost, because you think $10,000 or $15,000, and the vast majority of people are going to say that's a lot of money, because it is. But if you start looking at the actual cost and the time that you're spending instead of doing, your job, quote unquote, I bet you, 10 or 15 grand is probably a drop in the bucket relative to doing it in-house.
Yeah, actually a really good point.
It reminds me of a quote that I had picked up a couple of months ago. We either spend time preparing or reacting. We typically don't quantify reacting as time because it's our default. So what you just said, Lars, is we are fine as a industry and as small businesses at times learning on the fly. And if it takes us 6 months to teach somebody something and cost us $30,000 in compensation and benefits, we're okay with that. But if we can send somebody somewhere and pay $10,000 for them to learn it in 2 weeks, that's a lot of money, and we don't want to pay for that. So we're fine with spending it.
We'd spend 100 grand over 6 months. Way easier than 10 grand over 2 weeks.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, it's like the unknown, right? It's less tangible. It's very tangible to say, I'm going to spend $15,000 to send this guy to Ontario, California to have him trained. Where alternatively, I'm going to waste 6 months training them, say they make 50 grand a year. You're going to pay them $25,000 there. What if within 2 months,
how much damage are they?
Right. And what if within 2 months you can get them on the road and they can start making you money? So I think that's actually a really good point, is it's thinking less about what if I train them and they leave? It's like, well, if you train them and you can get your return on investment fairly quickly, actually. So even if they do leave, you've gotten your money back if they're all of a sudden a profitable technician.
Yeah. So. And that's where I was going to bring it back to that too, Tone. That's, I still think this goes back to on the interviewing stage, is if you see somebody that's jumped around a lot. Yeah. What are you expecting here? So
there's a great book on that that I would definitely recommend. It's called Hiring for Attitude. I think I shared it with you guys a couple of months back, but I would definitely recommend, if you're in a place of hiring and trying to figure out how to hire and then train people, I would read it, because it's talking, the most common conversation that you have with people is they go, I need to hire somebody that's trained so that I can get them up and running faster. And those are typically the people that don't click with your culture and click with your environment. And those are the ones that are going to roll out or have a higher level of turnover because they don't fit with your culture. And this particular book talks a lot around kind of the hiring process that Southwest Airlines uses to identify people. So you look at it like Southwest Airlines as a company. There are other airlines out there. There's American Airlines, Delta, United, whatever, Frontier, Spirit, and they all have a different. We know airlines, yeah. Gotcha. Sorry, I was just tossing out a few. They really all have. Well, here's the point. Like if you've flown on American and you've flown on Southwest,
sure,
they both do roughly the same thing.
Yeah,
Southwest employees are a little more laid back, a little more goofy at times, right? Yep. And American is going to be a little bit more buttoned up, professional.
Yep.
They do the same thing. It's just the experience that you're getting with it. So the same what are they called? They're not flight attendants anymore.
Yes,
what are they?
Flight attendants.
The same
not
flight
stewardess.
attendant on Southwest may not be successful in American. And American may not be successful at Southwest because they are looking for different attitudes.
Yeah. I actually, ironically, I'm just reading a book on Southwest Airlines. And I was going to say that exact same thing. It actually was encouraging a bit to me, because I've been saying that for a while. Like, I don't want to hire people with experience. I want to hire people with the right attitude, and we'll teach them experience. And turns out, they did the exact same thing.
Well, it's crazy
to the point where they didn't want to hire flight attendants from employees from other airlines.
Wisdom.
Because again, they knew they.
I heard that last week on the stage. Somebody was talking about that.
It is even crazier too. The three of our organizations, as similar as they are, the same team members may not be successful at our alternate companies, right? Because they each have their own type of environment and culture. We do the same thing, but that's not necessarily mean that they're going to fit in with that culture the same way.
Yeah. Well, and so, two things there, because, Chad, we talked about earlier, two things. What else?
Two things.
Sorry, Jess. If Chad's wife, Jessica, is listening, I apologize for saying that, but two things. We were talking earlier, just because, Tone, if you think about it, let's go back 5 years, right? Our companies were about the same size. Chad's was a little bit smaller, but in growth mode, right?
Mhm.
But I think what Chad did really well was they built a culture and then expanded
Mhm.
based
Mhm.
on that
Mhm.
culture.
Mhm.
We kind of went the other route where we went through acquisition and just went growth, 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 and then had a bit of a train wreck on our hands for, a couple of years and probably still a little bit. But, it was more of a melting pot after the fact. Which one worked better? Well, I'm not sure. But looking at the last few years, the growth of Chad's company has been significant relative to ours. I mean, it's not nearly as good just in general, but I mean, it's interesting because, he
Cautious there. You almost had a compliment.
he started from a culture
Correct.
base, and we were more of a, I think, tactical. And that what got me thinking of this, because I've made this mistake a couple times. So, and this is a battle and a whole other podcast we could talk about. But one of the things we had a guy named Ryan that was part of our company for several years and went away and then came back, and he's moved on again. But he was, everyone was quite happy when they were trained by him. He was empathetic. He was caring. He was, he was a very good teacher. He was not much of a manager, I would say, in the traditional sense of management, but he was a great teacher and a great type of leader. The challenge was that he, was more concerned with the people and making sure that everyone felt included and felt involved, and didn't put much stock at all in performance. And that our company's culture is very focused on performance. People that perform well do very well in our company. So the trouble we had was, he was in charge of, he was very good at managing up the people, but the performance wasn't there, and it was secondary. And then kind of when they left that, his bosom of, being onboarded and trained, and kind of went in the mainstream with the rest of the company, it was a bit of a culture shock. So it was like a microculture within. As I said, bosom, is that why everyone's giggling?
I'm giggling at Chad's face.
No, I'm all I heard you say was that having a dedicated trainer that was not the manager of the people was a really good thing.
So you wanted to be super smug.
Yeah.
And then, so anyway, that was,
hold a second.
there's
one other thing to sit on there.
Okay.
Is because a manager that's responsible for the training would typically prioritize performance over training. So the busyness of the day to day is always going to trump advanced training, continued education, because they're a manager that's responsible for performance of a set of humans is going to prioritize that, getting the work done, that more than ongoing training.
Yes, and I definitely think it's a
training one of their goals. Like, as a manager, part of your goal is to have your team train X amount. Now the manager is accountable to making sure their team is trained.
And you might see leaning into scoring high on that metric. But that doesn't necessarily mean, your goal is to train everyone for 40 hours. So they'll hit the 40 hours, but that doesn't necessarily mean that,
Fair.
like it's a good 40.
Yeah,
which
is fair.
I mean, I think either way, we're talking about, how what Chad's talking about as far as, having kind of I don't even want to say softer, but an empathetic type of person versus a manager in charge of training. And I honestly think either way would work. It will depend, and it will drive the culture. And I think that was my main takeaway is you have to decide which culture you want. Is it more of a team oriented, or is it more performance based? And I would recommend whichever one you are, I would recommend bringing in people that match your alignment, or you'll spend all of your time fighting the opposite.
Yeah. I should clarify, our managers don't do all of our training. Our managers are accountable for making sure their team is trained, and it is their decision of am I the best person to train this person? And it's like a mixture. It's hey, I manage this person, and I'm going to have them train with this person today, this person tomorrow, this person today, and then with me, whatever. So it's up to them to assess their own training abilities and train accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
What was the second thing, Lars? You said two things.
That was like 20 minutes ago.
I do know we're getting a little long in the tooth.
Thank you. I was going to say it. Can we have time for a tip and trick? Because there's something here I wanted to mention. Yes. Or Tony, do you want to jump in?
No, I got some takeaways, so you can start with your tip and trick.
So one of them, because I was reading, I was reading a book, this whole training the trainer idea that we've talked about. So I reached out to John, mentioned him before. And he recommended the Master Trainer Handbook by Bob Pike. Don't bother going to Amazon because it's not there.
I found it there.
Audible.
Oh, yes, correct. No, not on Audible.
So I bought it's a textbook, basically. But it's a very tangible book on how to train and how to do that. And one of my very first takeaways from that book was...
What was the title of the book again?
Master Trainer Handbook by Bob Pike. But they talk about testing and why testing is important. Because when you start off by saying, okay, I'm going to teach you a bunch of stuff, people are like, okay, and they listen and they nail the first stuff and they probably remember the last stuff and the middle doesn't matter. But if you say, I'm going to talk to you for 15 minutes about this, and there will be a test at the end that you have to pass. It's a whole different mentality. So that was the first thing, and that was a miss that currently for us I've got to implement. Immediately thought, that's something we're missing. So that was something that came up in this conversation today. So you guys helped out a little bit.
That's a good tip. It's probably on. It's probably on tape somewhere because that book was released back in 2015. So
yes, the third sentence had a typo in it, which was nice touch.
No, but I would agree with that. The testing part, which is some may argue the harder part of developing training is the testing to validate that they actually learned it versus just the telling somebody this is how you do something, because then we assume it's again we fail as humans so oftentimes. Does that make sense? Yes, that makes sense, because
does anyone ever say no?
Yeah, because I don't want to look like an idiot and I don't understand, so I'm going to say yes, and then I'm going to walk off and go, I have no idea.
Any questions?
Yeah.
How many?
That's a part of the training process.
So I did get some takeaways today. I don't know, I shouldn't sound shocked about that, but to kind of wrap things up a little bit, I think one is, if you're worried about training and people leaving, I think you should start by making sure look at your hiring practices. Are you hiring the right people? Are you hiring for the right attitudes? Are you hiring people that are a good culture fit for you specifically and your organization? A lot of times if people are leaving, that could be possibly poor hiring choices. Second thing is having a good culture, creating a culture that is desirable to work for. And if you focus on that, it's going to hopefully reduce turnover, and then you're going to have less fear about training.
Having the culture that you want is so important. If you are a results-driven person, hire results-driven people. New age management has got us all thinking that, you hire all these good people and then reward them however they want to be rewarded, and you will spend all of your time individualizing everything, and it's sucks. So hire the people that want to be rewarded and want to be trained and want to be taught the way that you want to do it.
And then another one you said about the ROI. Investing in training can sometimes have a very quick ROI, and I think people are not aware of that. If you look at a cost for a class, you can get that cost back pretty quickly if the employee becomes valuable, specifically in a technician role. If someone can start making revenue for the company in 3 months as opposed to 12 months, that's a huge ROI. So look at it less about what are you spending and more about what is the return that someone's going to get you. So,
and I'm going to add on to this as well. because if you're new to this and you're thinking about setting up a training program, it's an elephant, right? This is, so my experience, my recommendation to anyone that would listen would be teach them whatever the predominant keyways are in your area. Teach them those, how to rekey, how to R&R lock sets, and then teach them glass aluminum hardware. That's it. And if you are in the locksmith and security industry, that will cover a huge portion. They don't have to know everything. If they get to something that they don't know what it is, have that support network in place. But if you're trying to eat the elephant and trying to teach them absolutely everything, it's going to take you a year. And then, half the time people don't last much more than a year. So eat it like an elephant, step by step. I would highly recommend glass aluminum hardware, dominant keyways. Start there.
Do you guys eat lots of elephants up in Canada?
The one thing that I would say
God, we need
is,
sound effects because I just want to go. Wah, wah.
I was just trying to move past it, but the one thing that I have always tried to go back to, in especially when you're talking about culture and hiring and all those things, is exactly what you were just talking about, Lars. Find small measurables that you can get from point to point on, because we're terrible as a locksmith industry. It's like, hey, new hire, I've got an exciting career opportunity for you. Come join our company and train for a year. And after that year, you still won't know everything that you need to know. And I'm still going to have to tell you how to do everything. So are you excited to take this journey with us? No. But if it's broken down into small achievable factors of here's these 10 things that you need to master, here's the next 10 things you need to master, then you can start to feel like you're competent on those things versus just always working towards the inevitable, never going to get it. And that's not an encouraging or exciting career opportunity for anybody.
Yeah. So again, for those that are just trying to figure out how to do the training, highly recommend look at Oshawa University, talk to your local manufacturers reps. They have training programs that are in place. Have a real look at the investment. If it's $20,000, if you put a person in a truck, they should be doing, minimum $1,000 a day, should be making about $500 a day, $2,500 a week. So it's about a month is the return on investment for a $20,000, right? That's not perfect math, but is it worth the month? Especially when you start accounting for the money that you are going to spend doing it yourself, or having one of your other people come off the road to train them, or, the worst version is throw them in a truck with someone else and have them hope osmosis works. Yeah.
That's something that I just thought of, probably should have figured out a long time ago, is when is if we hire an employee, how long does it take us to start making money back on them, right? Like, because there's a period where we're investing, we're paying money, we're not getting money back. When is that break-even point? And I think as someone that's looking to get into doing more training or hiring and training, look at that number. When do you?
What's your number, Chad? When do they start bringing in revenue?
9 months right now is really where you start to get that break-even point.
And I'm going to say ours is about 10 weeks. That is our goal, because again, we're eating it like an elephant. I didn't realize that was not a saying you'd heard before, but it was. They do.
Are you talking about
simple rekeys?
Are you talking about being
in a van by themselves? In a van by themselves.
Profitable or revenue generating?
Profitable. In a van by themselves, doing rekeys and doing glass aluminum storefronts. And within 9 weeks, and I even think that's on the long end, but key identification takes some time. But I still think they can get out there in under 3 months, can get on the road. And now that's not to say that after 3 months, okay, we'll never see you again, just get out there and do your thing. There's a secondary, they come back in and do the next level, et cetera, et cetera. But that's my expectation.
Yeah, I the reason I was asking, I was trying to get clarification, because you can launch somebody between that 9 to 12 weeks and they start to generate revenue, but their production for to be, I guess, at the point of profitability that you would be looking for a seasoned technician is for us not going to be until about 9 months. They're generating revenue, but it's at or a break even point, not necessarily profitable. It does sound like Graham is getting a bit annoyed, so we probably
and hungry.
should.
He's probably hungry like his dad because he hasn't eaten in 5 minutes, so he's hungry again.
So on the topic of investments, and what's one of the things we were talking about today is investing dollars into humans and to get a result on it. I want our next topic for our next recording is going to be on the cost of borrowed money. I think that it requires us as growing businesses to borrow money from time to time. I don't think we all are aware, just based off of conversations I've had, I don't think all of us as business operators understand the real cost to borrow money and when we should and shouldn't do it.
I like that. That'll be exciting.
You've just dove deep into Rain Man territory here.
Yeah.
Tony's going to weighted average cost of capital. It's the future present value of future cash flows. We do this and
I think we can get that deep into it, and then we can also talk at more of a functional day to day because it's decisions that people are having to make on the fly, and I don't know that they always realize the long term impact. Where
and
if
understanding
I borrow
leverage.
If I borrow $1,000 today to buy $1,000 worth of products, but I have to pay X number of percentage of interest on it, what did it actually cost me to sell that product?
Right. If I can save 20% by buying 1,000 of them, what's my actual cost?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Cool. All right. So in the meantime, it is your responsibility as listeners or watchers, as we have deemed you, to subscribe.
Fan the pod. That's what the kids call it.
We've been here a year. You've got plenty of episodes to go back and check out, and we have plenty more on the way. We are going to have this next episode on the cost of borrowed money, and then as nice treats, you'll be able to hear multiple episodes with us all in person because we'll be together in another week or so. So that's going to be fun, and you want to be subscribed so that you don't miss any of those. You can find all of the links on our website, unlockedpodcast.com. Thank you guys for being here today. It's good to see you guys, and we will chat with you next time here on the Unlocked Podcast.
See you guys.
Bye.